It's time to be woke. Take off your shades. It helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the facts.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. It is Wednesday, and I am living in a hairy utopia. And let me explain. My hairdresser, who was a very close personal friend of mine for decades, who has cut my hair for those decades, retired just before the last opening in Ontario, where I had a small window of opportunity to get a haircut. Now, I didn't really have enough time to do my due diligence to find a replacement. And it's not because I'm a bit of a diva or, am particular about my hair's appearance. It's more of not wanting to inflict this on somebody new, right? Certainly want to do a background check on emotional stability and those kinds of things. But yesterday, in the warmth and working outside, I couldn't take it anymore. And my hair is quite long enough to do all of it in one ponytail. So I took the sides and I pulled them back and I put a kind of mid-head ponytail up here and left it in there and forgot about it. When Deb got home, she says, I have to send a text. So she gets her phone out and she sends the text to her hairdresser and says, when you reopen, please let me know. I would need to make an appointment for my husband because he looks like a pirate. So welcome to my world. Arr, my hair's so long it's covering my booty. So, first world problems, obviously. So,
that's great. I couldn't hold it.
So regardless, on the ship this morning, we're dealing with what I would call first world problems. Thank God I don't have to go out that often under lockdown because I really don't know what to do with the damn thing. But regardless of that, let's introduce my lovely and talented co-host, Ms. Carrie Barber. Good morning, Carrie. Apparently you have had an interesting morning this morning yourself.
Yeah, we have. So a lot of people go through this. So it was just our turn. So yes, my husband's baby, an older pickup truck. It's a 2003. We just had a major milestone. It crossed 200,000 miles. And he, of course, pulled over and celebrated and took pictures and just, whatever. So this is his baby. This morning, going out, I thought he was going to fall out in the middle of the street because somebody apparently tried to steal the truck. And the one benefit of having an older truck is they didn't get very far. They must have, when they tried to peel the steering column, shorted something out. So the truck refused to budge. However, now it's, they popped the lock in the steering column. So, of course, it's his baby and no expense will be spared to fix it and get it right.
And don't expect any help from the insurance company, as the red book value is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $175.
At this point, yeah, and we had to have that conversation. What was it, about a year ago? He had a minor fender bender. I don't remember what happened exactly, but they did pay it, and our wonderful mechanic repaired whatever the issue was. But I had to sit him down and say, okay, this is probably the last claim that the insurance company will pay on it because of the age. And he was like, oh, that blew it off. So
don't even talk about it.
Right. So now I'm dreading having to have the conversation with him. As you know, I almost feel like the parent where the goldfishes died while the kid's at school.
Right. Yes. Why does that fin a different color now, Mommy?
Right. Exactly. He's just sleeping, honey. So,
well, it's funny you should bring that up. And my only experience with this kind of thing was that I used to carpool to work. And for years and years and years, it was my daily driver, at least in the summertime. I bought a brand new 1987 Monte Carlo SS. And it was my pride and joy and my baby for all of those years. And at one time I had a shorted wire in the steering column, same idea, but it would work sometimes and not sometimes, but it was a controller for the windshield wipers, right? And while I was at work one evening, I came home and my car was gone. And it was raining. And so I called the police and I told them about the car being stolen. And I jokingly said, put out this APB on this red Monte Carlo SS that's trying to escape at 15 miles an hour because they can't see because the windshield wipers aren't working. So, but I ended up getting that car back. And
did you? Wow.
The insurance company paid for all of the damages that I guess there were these kids, two 15-year-old kids that weren't even old enough to drive, stole it and had a history of bad behavior, I guess, whatever. And they were lighting cigarettes with matches and throwing the lit matches in the back seat.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It was quite the ordeal. It took me a long time to recover.
That was good. That was good.
Mm-hmm. So
it was a long setup for that joke. So hey, good morning, everybody who's joining. Holly Horn, you are new. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate you, Holly. So yeah, if you're watching this morning, go ahead and tune in, and you can tell us we're being absolutely ridiculous for these first world problems, or share your own, because yeah, it is a first world problem. Absolutely.
Yes. And plus, let's be real about this. Our lives aren't usually this exciting.
No, and I like it that way. I'm old. I have no surprises, no nothing. So
did you see what I'm wearing today?
No, I didn't. Hold on.
It is
I was doing my job.
A lovely baseball jersey that was sent to me.
Oh, hey. Yeah.
From a certain co-host of mine from the great state of New Mexico. And again, we have to remind Americans that New Mexico is part of the United States. The Albuquerque Isotopes, that is the affiliate of, I believe, of the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, it's the farm team for the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, the triple A farm team that's in minor league West AAA division. And I think that was all just recently realigned so that they could be closer, because there was at one point, there were lots of affiliates all over the country, and they were at one point in Alberta, I believe, and in Calgary. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to have one of your minor league affiliates far away, just in case you have to last minute bring a player up to the big leagues because of injury or whatever, right? So the same thing happened with the Toronto Blue Jays, that their affiliate was quite a ways away. I forget exactly where they were, but they were very like California. And they said, this doesn't make any sense. So now they're playing in Buffalo. They're the Buffalo team. And that's important for this year and last year, because Canada's been so much stricter about the border being closed and large gatherings that the Blue Jays haven't played in their home stadium since the beginning of the pandemic. And they spent the entirety of last season at the Buffalo Stadium, and they've spent up until now this spring and the first part of the season at Dunedin, where their AAA affiliate, or their single A affiliate is. And but because of it getting hotter and hotter there, they couldn't stay there for long. So they revamped the Buffalo Stadium again, and now they've moved there, and they had their first game against Miami last night. So so at least they're closer, right? Ultimately, the hope is that the Jays will be back at the Rogers Centre, their home stadium in Toronto, at some point this season, so that we could get baseball back again. But again, Canada's certainly taken the pandemic quite a bit more seriously than the US has, and is the main reason why they aren't, and the border's been closed for so long, right? So, but that's a long explanation for saying thank you for the shirt, Carrie.
Yeah, no problem. And it was so funny because we had all of these viewers lined up, and I'm watching all the people gather around, and you start talking baseball, and it's like drop. That's not just me.
Oh, bullshit. You're just saying that.
But you bring up a good point, and that leads us into our first headline story that we were going to talk about, and that's vaccines and the COVID vaccines. So this I thought was interesting because here in the U.S. we've had the vaccine for a very long time relative to the rest of the world, and we're just not taking it. So New Mexico, we were leading the charge, and now it's petered off. So I think that what has happened here in the U.S., where it's been prevalent, is you still have a lot of misinformation, and then the headlines come out about, the factory in Baltimore who was messing things up epically. So it really caused a lot of people to go, yeah, maybe I'll wait, and that's what we're seeing. So Andy, if you want to put up this first graphic, we're going to talk about the COVIDs and the vaccine, because I thought this was relevant for not just getting back to the new normal, but it just speaks to how we are in the United States, and I gotta love my people, right? I gotta love them because nobody else does. Is kind of how I feel about this. So what we've resorted to here in the United States is incentivizing people to get the vaccine, right? And I love this headline from Yahoo News, and I posted a link in the chat. It's just what will we not do in this country to make sure that people get it? And they go on to talk about how during the polio outbreak, it was an entirely different America. And yeah, absolutely it was, because you didn't have to bribe people or pay people or do contests for them to get the polio vaccine, because they recognize that kids all over the world, and in particular in the United States, were dying and suffering. So it was a nice contrast. And here we are, our TV dinner kind of bread and circuses, United States. And so what they've resorted to doing, and I thought this was, maybe it works. So there's a lottery prize in New York. New York offered a $5 million lotto prize. And you could enter if you could prove that you got a vaccine between May 25th and June 29th. So everybody who was responsible or jumped on it and got the vaccines, you were out. You had to be within this time frame. So a lot of people were upset about that. And I don't have any information on who actually won that because it's still ongoing. You've got till the 29th. So if you live in New York State, and you have not yet gotten the vaccine, go get it, because now you can win a $5 million lottery prize for being a holdout.
Apparently they have to get some better prizes to make it worthwhile, because one of the prizes was a dinner date with Mayor Cuomo, and so
yeah, that's not gonna no. Speaking of Mayor Cuomo, he's it's so funny because I shout out to Savage Joy. She always makes me laugh with her snarky takes, and on Twitter she was talking about his fundraisers, and he's going out to do all these little fundraisers and things, and she's like, I wonder how many pink pussy hats we're gonna see lined up at these. Like zero. The answer is zero. So they've all gone back to brunch.
That's right.
But what I thought was funny is in Illinois, and they don't name the park, but I know the amusement park. Y'all know this amusement park. It's up in northern Illinois, and it has flags in its little name.
And like, are they 6 of them?
Yes. So they're offering free admission if you come to the park to get your shot, your first or your second shot. Now, if you already have them, no discount for you. Screw you. So this is what I thought was kind of funny. Not only is it absolutely ridiculous that we have to incentivize people, hey, maybe we don't want you dying, maybe you can do this. And there's some people who can't get the vaccine, and we're not talking about the people who are a big government or whatever. We're talking about people who are immunocompromised and all of these. They can't get it, so we need to get it to protect each other. America, no. What is actually happening is there are other states who are paying people up to $100 to get a shot, and that is actually working in some cases. So in this graphic, there's this handy little map, and the lighter the color green, the more people who have gotten it in that particular state. But that's still less than 50. I think it was in Maine. Maine is topped 63%, and they're like leading the pack now. So all of the northern New England states, Massachusetts, Maine, things like that, they're all leading the pack, but that's still a very small number, 63% of the population. The ones that are the worst, absolute worst, take a wild guess, Andy. Where are the worst performing states in the continental United States?
Let me say that although on this map they are green, typically they're red.
That's exactly right. So leading the pack at 39%, Georgia. Alabama's at 36%, Mississippi 34%, Louisiana 35%, Arkansas 39%, Wyoming, this should be an easy lift for them because there's nobody there. There's like nobody in the state, and they still only have 37%. And then Idaho is at 37%. So
it's not that they can't vaccinate them, it's they can't find them.
Right. So I guess they're already practicing some form of social distancing. So I just thought that this particular story was sad and funny in so many ways, because it's so very American, so American. Wait. Holly is asking a question. Will you be covering the March for Medicare for All July 24th? Absolutely. And in fact, we try to do big events. Like if you've got nothing going on, here are the cities that have big events. We did the Medicare for All one in Illinois, Chicago last week. So yeah, absolutely. Holly, if you've got information you want to send in, absolutely, we'll cover it. And we will share stories and pictures and try to drive as much traffic there as we possibly can. So thank you for mentioning that. So sorry, Andy, I jumped in.
No. I just wanted to mention for some context on that last point about vaccines. I've mentioned a number of times here how the Americans, just because of the purchasing power of their dollar, or your dollar, I guess in context, is just so much more influential in the world that it was easier for the United States to, either persuade or bully their way into getting a huge amount of vaccines right off the bat. So they weren't suffering from the same supply problems as other countries like Canada was. But the part that's contextual here is that we just reached 60%, right? And all of Canada. So, how much later of a start we got, we're now basically at the equal amount. And with the number of vaccines that has been stepped up that are coming here a lot faster than originally we had anticipated, it looks like, well, for my own example, I wasn't going to get my second dose until September, and it looks like it's been moved up to mid to late July, right? So they're doing it right. They're securing the vaccines. What's the difference? It's that there's just too many Americans that have, been watching the anti-vaccine and being confused about it, and maybe a purveyor of Fox News and not getting the correct information about it, and they're just choosing not to do it, right? Oh, we'll be fine, right? So that's really unfortunate, because as we've heard and we've seen right now, the latest variant coming out of India apparently is the B1617, which is now an entirely different variant, which is concerning. It's pushing the envelope towards, is our vaccine going to be able to deal with that one? And they're doing the studies on that now. And why is that significant? Well, India is the place where the numbers just skyrocketed. And we went through having to deal with sending vaccines there because they don't have the ability to make them. Well, sure, you're fine in the US, but we live in a smaller world now where people jump in a plane and they go back and forth, and that's part of reopening, right? We see that areas like Australia and New Zealand have done a really good job of keeping their numbers down and being in control and keeping their people whole, right, through monetarily, and defeating it. And in fact, both, as far as I know, both New Zealand and Australia have reopened completely. Or podcast just recently, right?
Right, and their efforts are going to be totally undone by the rest of the world, like you said.
Well, and we've already seen that. I heard a news story this morning that the city of Melbourne in Australia, 5 million people, is now a breakout area again. And so they've been put a year and a half backwards because the rest of the world can't keep up, because they either can't get the vaccines or they don't economically want to help their people. And you see places like Brazil and the US and the UK that didn't take it seriously, that didn't think in terms global instead of just national. And now it's just getting turned on its head again.
Okay, so Holly brings up a good point here. So Holly, she said she's got the Moderna, so thank you for doing that, Holly. She says they have facilities in India ready to go, and they can't do anything because they won't lift the patent. And I want to echo that point, because I've said it before. All the medications that we have in the United States, that we have around the world, I think we're up to 95% of them are actually manufactured in India. So to say that they can't manufacture this is not really true, because all of our drugs, think of everything that you take, everything that you see on TV, whatever, it comes from India. We source the basic materials from China. It goes to India, they package it up, and they send it back to the United States and around the world. So yeah, they have it, and it's all because of the patents. But Mama Bear Pelosi said, let's just make it affordable, right? That should be enough.
Oh, sure. If you're a neoliberal that's entire existence is based on profit, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's part of this, let them eat cake kind of thing. And as you said, it's going to come back to haunt us because, we're going to have to get boosters. And you and I have talked about this before, because this particular virus, and Dr. Dillon said it many, many times, it mutates so quickly that it becomes something new, so that you will have to have booster shots. And it's just a matter of when and which do you take, the Brazil strain, the India strain? Are they close enough where, and shout out to our virologists who are busting ass still trying to get ahead of this while we are being, the glue eaters in the kindergarten class. It's ridiculous. So, hey, kudos to everybody who said that we were overpopulated. Here you go, which, number one is a lie. But here's your global genocide. Congrats to you. Yeah. So, okay, enough on the COVID. There is one piece that I'm digging into a report, and I didn't want to do it today because I'm not done with the data. But talking about the CARES Act and the stimulus checks that came out in the U.S., there was I think it was the Boston Globe cited a study where here in the U.S. it's not just denial of COVID, denial of the vaccine, but apparently there's an alarming number of people who sent back their stimulus check. Like, I don't want any money from the government, because number one, they don't understand where that money comes from. Number two, they thought that if they were cashing that check, that either there was a tax implication or they were taking a government handout. And so I think it speaks to not only our ignorance on health matters, but financial and civics. So that's a story that I definitely want to get into. I'm hoping I'll be ready by Friday to talk about that. So, but I got to tell you, when ACA came into place and I was working as a consultant at a very, very large insurance company, and they had the rebate checks go through for the first year. Basically, if you paid too much in premium and 80% of it didn't go directly to your care, you got a rebate on your premium. And I remember that there was one gentleman out of Texas who was furious, tore up his check, and all of us sat around and went, that was his money. I don't, there's nothing we can do about it, but it's that same kind of mentality. And it goes back to Reagan era, government is the problem, and getting people to believe that, government is something else. It's not we, this is us. This is our government. This is all of us. So yeah, that's
and it's ridiculous too, right? Like, I mean, we've had this discussion before where, we talk about good welfare and bad welfare, like what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, right? The single mother living in a city that has to rely on food stamps and I think it's Medicare, or is it Medicaid for health insurance. And that's considered bad. That's considered a drain on society. But the university professor that works for a state-run university that gets their health insurance paid for by the government because of where they work is okay. They both come from the exact same place, and they're both literally the same thing. But because one is considered bad, the other thing is considered good, that's a difference, right?
Well, have the government keep your hands off my Medicare, right? So speaking of government, let's shift to the next story, because I think a good segue on this one is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She had this wonderfully hilarious tweet about Joe Biden being a socialist. And he's a socialist. So everybody on the left laughed, everybody on the right laughed, and it was just the best comical take that I don't think she intended, because here's the irony. Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting her platinum insurance plan, her health insurance plan for herself and her family, paid for by public money. So she gets an insurance policy coverage and benefits that none of us can buy. It's the bourgeoisie Congress, they're the only ones who get this, and then some CEOs and executives. But that's the level of coverage that they get. Plus, they have a little clinic and doctors available to them in Congress at no charge to them. That is something public money pays for. So here she was trying to talk about Joe Biden being a socialist, and okay, but here she was getting those good benefits that you said, that the good welfare. Yeah, go ahead on with yourself. So
Yeah,
oh boy,
don't think about it at all, or your head will explode. But it's okay.
There's just so many layers to it. You're like, but so along those lines,
when she said it, was she yelling it through AOC's keyhole to her office?
maybe. I don't.
Is that socialist Biden in there with you?
Right. So no, this was on Twitter, but I kind of want to see her in Congress because I bet she's just a hoot to follow. Really, just I would be snickering the whole way. But speaking of ridiculous, all right. So Joe Biden once again has gone after Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, which to me is the same take. Because, oh, by the way, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin both had really good progressive challengers during the primary, and they got squashed, not by Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, but by the DNC and the DCCC, two corporate entities who decided that they know what's best for Americans, so they just trounced them completely. So now we have Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, and Joe Manchin has been Joe Manchin forever, and they just absolutely love him. So you and I have talked about there always has to be a foil. And the reason that they use the foil is this really good narrative that helps them, number one, raise funds. So if you go out on any news site like Yahoo, MSNBC, just General Reuters, you're going to see an ad. Like if you're looking at an article about Joe Biden trying to get stuff done, he's working so hard. Next to it is going to be an ad about Marjorie Taylor Greene being evil and we need your money. Sure. And vice versa, right? So if you don't like Joe Biden's a socialist, you're going to have all of those far right people going, we need to raise funds off it. And so this is the dynamic. And you learn this in communications. You've always got to have the protagonist and the antagonist and that sort of thing. So Joe Biden is once again using Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin as the foils. He can't get anything. He can't possibly get anything done in the Senate because these horrible, horrible people are blocking his way. So I just want to remind people that the filibuster has been in play for a very long time. And Mitch McConnell actually set the first record during the Obama first term at 300, I think it was 326. I know it was over 300 uses of the filibuster that was just off the charts throughout the nation's history. So this began the use of the filibuster. And it used to be part of the rules said that, you remember when, what was the movie? Such and Such Goes to Washington. It was old. No. Oh my God, no. It was a classic black and white movie. I'm gonna kick myself. I know this one, but you had to actually speak the entire time during the filibuster, and the minute you stopped, then it was done. Well, they changed the rules where now all you have to do is object, and you can even phone it in now. So it's easy. So rather than end the filibuster during this term, Democrats don't want to do it. And I want to say that again so everybody understands. Democrats do not want to end the filibuster. So they're using Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin as the foils in this particular argument and saying, this is why Joe can't get anything done. It's these two, they're horrible. So that, as a journalist, that always piques my interest. And I don't know why it doesn't for my colleagues because I don't see anybody writing on this. So I went out and just did, okay, so how evil is Kristen Sinema? How evil is this person, and how did she ever get elected? So let's take a brief look. So Andy, if you don't mind, let's put, oh, all right. So here is Kristen Sinema, and she's actually a darling. And these are just snapshots. I included a little bit of a link, a couple different links to this. So this is just a high level overview, and you can do the deep dive that I went through, but I didn't want to inundate you with numbers. So I looked at candidate Kristen because she was in the House. Now she's in the Senate. So she has a long list of legislative votes in her history to go by. So how did this horrible, horrible, evil person ever get elected as a Democrat? Well,
how, Carrie?
She's actually a Democrat. She is a poster child for the Democratic Party. And I don't want to say a poster child for leftists. I want to make that distinction. She is a poster child for the Democratic Party. So yeah, her score in the League of Conservation Voters, these are the green tree hugger people, they gave her a 76 lifetime. 76%, that's pretty high, right? And for 2020, because she voted with fracking, it dropped to 62%. Still solid blue, right? Heritage Action for America. This is a Koch brother funded organization. They do ALEC legislation. They hate her, and they have hated her forever. Her lifetime score with them is 9. This session, she upgraded to 10%. So the far right absolutely hates her. And she got elected in Arizona. Weird. Okay. ACLU gives her 100% score. 100%. They love her, right? Planned Parenthood, she was endorsed. All of these left organizations endorsed her and put out all the stops to get her elected to Senate. So Kristen, if you had any idea that Kristen Sinema was like a Trump Republican light, bullshit. She's not. She is a solid blue Democrat. She just happens to be the foil this year. So what I would invite you to do, and I did it, and I saw it, open secrets. Go look at her donors. She has a full war chest right now. And I would suggest, this is my opinion, I would suggest that both Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, for their angst at being made the foils, are being given monetary and other supports to make sure that they get reelected. So there's always a trade-off. You've seen it before with Joe Manchin. You're seeing it with her war chest right now. So
I heard that Debbie Wasserman Schultz saw Kristen Sinema's corporation donor list and went, "Whoa."
yeah, like, oh my God, look at her. Yeah, and so that's really how the game is played there. So
and then let's be clear that and Joe Manchin is being exactly who he is supposed to be, right? Joe Manchin comes from a place that is considered, socially conservative. He represents that state. They believe in certain things, and he represents his people quite well, which is the way democracy is supposed to work, right? Mm-hmm. Which is exactly. Now, Kristen Sinema, little bit of a different story there. When I think cinema, I think theater.
Oh, speaking of misanthropic, thank you, you jumped in. Jimmy Stewart. Dang it, I'm gonna have to look it up now. Jimmy Stewart was the actor in the movie that I'm taking. So we're on the same page. Thank you for that. Yes, it's Jimmy Stewart. Mr. Smith goes to Washington, hauling for the win. Yes, thank you.
Okay, do we have any valuable parting gifts?
Not yet. Still working on her.
A lovely 2003 truck with a broken steering wheel.
I can't even give that away. So yeah. So all right. So getting getting back on the rails here.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I am posing the idea and the suggestion, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong, that these two are being used as a foil and an excuse, and on the back end are being compensated in-kind donations, monetary support, that type of thing. That is my opinion based on the evidence that I am seeing. But I've seen it before, and this is where I get a little cynical because I keep seeing it time and time again. And there's horse trading that goes on in these elections. So one story that I wrote years ago was about Heidi Henry in Illinois and how this horse trade actually works, where we put up a Democratic candidate against a Republican only to fundraise. Now this is Democrats fundraise for the Republican. Like, oh no, this Republican actually has a Democrat running now. We need to support them. And then the Democratic Party would actually have the Democrat challenger drop out of the race. Because the whole goal, these two sides are absolutely working together, deciding who gets to run and which side's going to win. And then if we give you this district, what do we get in return? Well, okay, you can have these 3 districts and I'm going to take these 3, and that's how they do it. And anybody who is not familiar with that, in Illinois, they were very open about how districts were segregated and traded back and forth between the two parties. So to even believe for a second that we have a healthy democracy is not, no, it's not, because you have the same people in power and there's a lot of money that goes back and forth. So that's part of the problem. So if you're a Dem Inter person, I applaud your effort and keep going. I want to encourage you to keep going. If you're Dem Exit, you need to be aware of how that game is played. So one thing in particular that I would call out as here's your sign is part of the I think it was the CARES Act. I believe it was the CARES Act. There was this little line that went through that all the states had to form citizen organizations to help with gerrymandering and redistricting. I never saw anything from a Democratic Party member. I never saw anything from a Republican Party member mentioning this, because what they were doing behind the scenes, in my opinion, was they had already picked the people that they wanted for those citizen groups. These were paybacks for friends and loyalty and whatever. The only party that I saw across the board, and not in every state, but across the board, was the Green Party, was letting people know that this was going on in your state and you had till May 31st to put in your name. So I did put in my name, and I just got my email back saying I'm not going to be considered. But what it did say that I thought was really interesting is all of the interviews with the candidates who were selected to move forward to the next step, those are public. They have to be public. So go back to, for my Dem Inter folks, go back to your party and say, hey, were you aware of this? And do you know that these interviews are going to be public? If you get crickets, well, there's your answer. So what I would say is, in your state, it's either going to be the elections board or the ethics board is running these interviews. Find out and tune in. Find out where they are so that you can see who these people are. And I'm pretty willing to bet, like if I had a dollar to bet, most of these people are already party insiders. So keep an eye on that one. Okay, Misanthropic says, any super delegates on the committees? Well, it depends on your state. You can have super delegates because the prohibition was on elected officials. Had to be a regular citizen, right? So it couldn't be a judge, couldn't be a state rep, library board, or any of that sort of thing. Super delegates are not necessarily elected, so potentially they could be. They could be, but these were supposed to be just open to anybody who wanted to. And so what I did is I put my resume together, and here's my organizational skills and, you know, all of my corporate experience and how, you know, ethics, all of this, and just submit it, see what happened. And Nah, I didn't make it to the next ring, which I didn't really expect because I just got to New Mexico. So yeah. So but yeah, good question. There could be super delegates on the committees. It depends on your state. So all of this is supposed to be publicly available information. Go ask questions. And if you're having trouble finding it, now come on now. I will help you, but I'm not going to do your work for you. So you at least have to make a concerted effort. If you're having trouble or you're getting stonewalled, reach out. I will help you. But I'm not your mom. Just please try to make an effort.
I have my own problems.
I have a pickup truck that is, yeah. So yeah, that is how that's working. But so this is where the Biden story kind of goes into this whole thing. So we're looking at the federal level, and they're screaming about states, the election laws. Well, that is where your cue is to turn to the states, because the states actually have a hell of a lot more power when it comes to ethics and voting and policy than Congress does. And that is what Biden is telling you. This is what the whole story is about when he's trying to blame these other two. The whole story is Biden is telling you, I am not going to do anything because midterms are coming. Midterm elections are coming. And in the trend that we've seen since the third way Dems, the third way Republican light Dems came into the picture, is if one party gets majority in the presidential, then they flip it during the midterms so that all that money and power and everything else stays in that group, two sides of the same coin, the red side, blue side. So what's going to happen, and I have no doubts about this because we see it every time, Republicans are going to sweep that majority. And Biden's already setting up for it. He's letting you know. And the reason for this, Andy, you say it all the time, donor class likes it this way.
Well, and the Democrats like it this way because they make more money when they're in the opposition.
Yeah, because again, it goes back to the fundraising. Trump, orange man bad. Remember that the DNC was near bankruptcy. And then Trump came in and he was phenomenal for fundraising. And then even look at McConnell. They point at McConnell. McConnell had a viable challenger who was another progressive. DNC didn't want that one because they don't necessarily want McConnell gone. So they put up the performative candidate. I'm sure she was a lovely person, but even Schumer said she's great for fundraising. Yes. Nothing to do with policy, nothing to do with her career. Didn't give a shit if she could get elected or not. She was great for fundraising. And so is McConnell. So this is how it works. And
if you were paying attention, that's one of the reasons why Kamala Harris is a VP. Mm-hmm. Is because she wasn't a viable candidate, even in her own state during the primary, but boy, can she raise money.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Badass pilot who happens to be, I don't know which of the LGBT, but she's in that category. So she was, there you go. Fundraiser. Okay. Andy, your fan club is popping up here. Oz Lafa says, hi, Andy.
Oh, Oz. Oz, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, so Oz popped in just to say hi, Andy. Screw Carrie. Hi, Andy. Thanks, Oz.
Boo, boo.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So this takes us to, we're running out of time. I gotta get to the story because I think it's fantastic.
Yes, and what I've heard is this is the best story of all of them. They always save the best for last. It's tremendous.
Yeah, go ahead and put this one up because it was cracking me up. It was actually my husband who talked about, Trump's coming back. I'm like, what? So I was doing a search, and any search you do on Trump 2024, all across the board, it's the center and center left news. Again, here's your foil, right? They are so giddy because their ratings have dropped since he left, right? There's no train wreck. So they have nothing really, all this performative bullshit. Right? They're like, oh my God, Trump's coming back. Yay. They're so excited. So this is
welcome to the Make America Great Again tour 2021.
Right. And that's what kind of cracked me up because yeah, so here's what's happening. Again, going back to the midterms, you have a lot of Republicans who are either running for office or trying to defend their seat. And they are calling on Trump and all of his folks to come and stump for them because they're, oh, by the way, 70 million people voted for Trump the second time. I guarantee you it's going to be more as it comes up. So they're trying to cash in on this. And you saw this with Tom Cotton and Marjorie Taylor doing these I want to call them book tours, but they're just hawking money. They're out there doing their thing. It's not a Make America Great. I forget what they're calling them, freedom and guns or whatever. I don't know. But one of them,
freedom and guns.
Yeah, that's basically what it is, right? So one of them,
I think they're calling it the Safety's Off tour.
Right. So what I thought was interesting was some of the commentary in this, like, okay, every time you think of a product, right? Like laundry detergent. Let's just do laundry detergent. Every time you come out with a new iteration, you really don't even have to change it very much in order to put new and improved on it, right? But at some point, after about 5-10 years of this new and improved whitening power, whatever, you really got to come out with something good or something
funny. You'd say whitening power there.
Following. So you really have to have something big and bold, or your marketing department is like, what the hell? So the Trump faction, they are out supporting re-election and talking about Joe Biden socialist and whatever else. At the same time, and this is where it gets good, they're talking about more sedition. And who was it? Dang it, his name escapes me. I haven't had enough coffee. But he was just talking about the coup in Myanmar should happen here in the United States. And why not? Why couldn't you? And what struck me as funny is, it was a pearl clutching moment for Democrats. But I was like, no, he's right. He's right, not in that we should have a coup, but there's no accountability, right? So you still have 147 seditionists sitting in Congress. And I've made this point before, but it bears repeating. I have worked with people I didn't like. I worked with people who absolutely hated me. None of them tried to kill me. None of them that I'm aware of, right? And if one of my colleagues did try to kill me, I'm not going to sit there and try to be unified and very cool with it. I'm not going to say, hey, can we have HR have a commission? And this is what's happening. So if there is no accountability for attempted homicide, then why wouldn't you have these kind of things? Yeah, it's fair game. We have just raised the bar on the level of discourse towards subverting democracy, and everybody's okay with it. So
yes, and wasn't it yesterday that Trump came out and told his supporters that, yes, I'm going to be reinstated as president in August?
Yes, well, and he has to, because the Q following has fallen off, because it's just like, when the preachers come out and say the world's going to end, or what was it, Falwell, who said, if you don't give me X million dollars, God's going to call me home, right? So he had to say that. He had to come out and say, I'm going to be reinstated because of all of these audits. And oh, by the way, those audits are completely failing, right? They're lining right up to what was reported by the Republican county clerks in each one of these districts. So they have to keep coming out. And this is where I'm talking about the marketing thing. It's the new and improved. And in August, this will happen and because they're fundraising. And why is Trump fundraising so hard? And this is one of the links that I put in there because I thought this is hilarious to me. Hilarious. And hilarious from the point of view that I have zero control over all of this. The information and content itself is pretty serious. So this is the link that I put for justsecurity.org, and it highlights the number of criminal and civil litigations against Trump right now today. This does not include the Attorney General in New York, which I'm still watching that one. But these are defamation cases. There's a number of defamation cases that are in court right now. While he was president, he accused people of this one Jean Carroll. He accused her of fabricating a rape allegation. So here's that rape charge coming back, but now it's coming back in a tort case for defamation. There's another one, Summer Zervos. She was a former contestant on The Apprentice, filed a civil suit against Trump for defamation after he claimed her allegations of his inappropriate sexual conduct defamed her character. So there's another one. Mary Trump. What is her relationship to him?
That's sister. I thought it was sister.
I thought it was. I couldn't remember, but Mary Trump is suing him for defrauding her out of millions of dollars in inheritance. The Panama Hotel, it's a tax litigation case, so this could actually develop into RICO. This is Ithaca Capital is suing Trump's hotel management for fraud in federal court. This is important because when we talk about Trump 2024, and I think if he is able to push these cases off or get them dismissed or settle them without one of them being on a federal level, he can run for president again. The only thing that would stop him is a federal conviction.
That's right.
Can't run on a federal conviction. So this one I think is the Panama Hotel is in federal. There's a class action suit. This one I thought was interesting. A group of anonymous plaintiffs have filed class action against the Trump family and their businesses. This is Ivanka and all of those people, alleging that Trump used their brand to scam investors out of paying for worthless business opportunities. Yeah, so Trump lost his bid to force the case into arbitration, and now it's going to court. So there's a whole bunch of people. And I wonder if this is part of the Trump University thing. Okay, so this one is also federal. This is an FEC violation. DC civil suit over misuse of 2017 inauguration funds. That's an FEC violation. So this one I think will actually go not just for Trump, but his campaign manager who was already indicted and things like that. Bonnie Thompson indictment suit for the Capitol attack. So there are two for the Capitol attack that are going through. One, Bonnie Thompson, and then another one where there are two Capitol police officers who have presented their own case. Both of them are going after Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and two right-wing militia groups for conspiring to forcibly prevent Congress from counting the Electoral College votes. The ones with the two officers are directly, doesn't name the officers, but they're suing Donald Trump for injuries they sustained while protecting the Capitol. Both allege that the rioters physically attacked them. And all of this was on former president's incendiary words and conduct. So that's another one that's federal just because of where it is. NAACP, the Legal Defense Fund for Voting Rights Case, Post-Election Actions. So this is Trump's citing the erroneous information about voter fraud and blah, blah, blah. So NAACP. Okay, and then the last one in this one, well, there's two big ones. So the New York Attorney General Civil and Criminal Investigations in New York, this is Letitia James, which we've mentioned on this program several times, is something that I think, I really think this one has legs. I think the rest of them could, he has an entire career of deflecting on these types of cases. I think Letitia James, she's got something here, and she is, that's the one that I'm watching. And that's in the Southern District. So spokesperson on May 18th for New York Attorney General's office said, "We have informed the Trump organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature. We are now actively investigating the Trump organization in criminal capacity along with the Manhattan DA." I think that's the one. Yeah.
I think there was a number of different news outlets that said that he was going to, that the law enforcement has been treating the Trump family like a mafia crime family, apparently.
Yeah, RICO. I think that they're going to get him on RICO. So I don't know who's got, the apocalypse bingo going, but that's where I'm putting my money on Letitia James and what she's doing right now. But the other one is the Manhattan. Manhattan's coming after him, and they are coming after him on RICO. And this is his Trump's finances. So criminal investigation. Manhattan DA Cyrus Vance recently gained access to Trump's tax information in the course of criminal investigation of potential tax crimes, insurance fraud, and other financial crimes under state law. Criminal charges have not been filed. Wow. I think it's going to take a long time to put this together. So I'm kind of watching that one, but it's nice to see that New York and Manhattan are working together and sharing information back and forth. That's good. We want law enforcement to do that. We want them to share this kind of information. So one of the things that developed in that particular case that is important is on March 31st, New York Times reported that prosecutors have subpoenaed Mr. Wasselberg's personal bank records. He is heavily involved in Trump's finances and, the shell game back and forth. And they took possession of financial records from Wasselberg's daughter-in-law. So, yeah, that one's going to be coming down. So what was the other one? The Attorney General criminal investigation in DC, Carl Racine, has announced criminal investigation charges in the role provoking January 16th. So here and again, you have 4 different cases about the January 16th. So it is my guess that Congress and the Republicans, because they're not named necessarily in these cases, are have a proclivity to let the court cases play this out. They don't want to be implicated themselves. So that is why this commission thing is stalled. So anyway, there's just a long list.
I'm going to blow the whistle on everyone. It's going to be tremendous. Stay tuned for our press conference at Four Seasons Landscaping.
I remember back in the day, because I am that old, when simply going, yeah, ended your campaign. I remember that. Now you can just, grab them by the pussy and still be president.
Shoot someone on Fifth Avenue.
Right. And I got to say this because I keep seeing this and it drives me up a wall. When you see this cute little Biden meme that says he doesn't mean tweet and he's not an embarrassment. And I'm like, really?
It's because he can't find his phone.
Well, yeah, he can't find his phone, but is really the bar that low that you have been so set back that policy doesn't matter? He can politely come up to you and smack you across the face and say, have a good day. And you're totally okay with that. This is where we're at now. I never gave a shit about Trump's tweets. I didn't, because I never pay attention to what they say. I'm cynical and I've lived long enough in the political space. I know better. I look at what they do.
Unless you work for him, and then you're going to see if you still have a job.
Oh, well, yeah, firing people. Well, yeah, by tweet. So, but this is where we're at now. Our bread and circuses. We have to pay somebody with an amusement park pass to get a vaccine. And if the president doesn't mean tweet, we're totally okay. Oh, by the way, people are dying in the streets, but okay. Socialism bad. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
there's that. So these were the big headlines that I was working on in the grand scheme of what the hell, because not because other outlets weren't covering them. I just thought they missed the lead. I thought they missed the lead completely. The lead was not Trump. The lead was, why is this working? And they didn't cover that. So that's why I did.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. So yeah, that's it for me. I will be back on Friday with a whole bunch of data that I'm going to surprise Andy with and get
A complete cornucopia.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I like data because number one, credible data doesn't lie, and it gives you a really good picture of who you are. And this is why I wanted to kind of dive into that. And then, yeah, any other stories, requests that you want to see a deep dive on, let us know. But yeah, we will have fun on Friday with data. So I just want to say thank you to Holly, to Oz, to Misanthropic. You guys are awesome with the movie the movie trivia. I appreciate the bailout there. So any final words of wisdom or thoughts from Uncle Andy?
No, I think we've actually gone over time today, and you know, I am over 50, so of course automatically you have to pee. So I think we should go. I think that's about it.
All right.
But
All right.
wonderful show today, Carrie. Thank you so much for all your due diligence and your wonderful journalism. It's amazing to work with you always. And again, thanks for the shirt. I will endeavor to be a good isotope.
You're welcome. Always. Yeah.
And everyone else, enjoy the rest of your hump day, and you're just about through it. And we will see you bright and early on Friday morning for more fun and games. Enjoy your day. Take care.
We bout that, ayy. We in the zone. We out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hammer the dog. We